Welcome to Ticker Talk with hosts Max and Kate, podcasting from TreeTown in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ticker Talk shares the everyday success stories and science behind the heart rate-based functional aerobic fitness training practiced at CrossFit TreeTown. Max and Kate explore the research, science, and practical experiences behind Ticker Training, a program developed by Max for just about everyone, your grandma, your cousin who runs marathons, and you. In this series, we'll explore what exactly heart rate-based functional aerobic fitness is, how what you eat affects how you move and how you feel, what tools to use in tracking progress, and how to fit training into your everyday life. Join us and learn something new to make a healthier you. Pace yourself. Max and Kate here in the Ticker studio on Ticker Talk. Today we are not just podcasting, but we are making a movie looking at some videos that we took yesterday of a PNOE test, which is our metabolic analyzer, or mask of doom, depending on what end of it you are on.
Right, and depending on how hard you're going and what you're trying to figure out and find out.
Exactly. So what we see here is Max doing a workout wearing this really cool mask.
Yeah, this is our PNOE metabolic analyzer. Again, this is what we've been talking about. This measures the amount of O2 that I'm breathing in compared to the CO2 that I am exhaling.
Right, and it's analyzing what is exhaled in that CO2 so we can see what fuel source you are using to move yourself around.
Correct. So what I was doing today is I was utilizing a test that I did earlier for my MAP, and I use about 137 to 144, depends on the day. But
that's the heart rate.
Correct. And I'm just kind of, doing a 3 minute or a 2.5 minute on, 1 minute off training here for 5 sets. Then I rest 3 minutes, then I do 5 more sets. I only show in this video here like just 2 rounds. I just wanted to give everybody an idea of, the pace that's being held and what's going on here and the fuel source that's being utilized. Okay, so this workout was 10 toes to bars, 10 calories on the bike, around 53 to 57 RPMs throughout, and then 5 power cleans at 115, and then I rest a minute. And then I do that a total of 10 times here. And you can see in this little screen that's inlaid, that's just the app from PNOE, and it's measuring real time my heart rate and my RER. My RER is my respiratory exchange rate, and that's just the relationship between O2 in, CO2 out. And anything above 0.75, I'm starting to utilize more sugar than fat as a fuel source. So you can see here my heart rate's 134, and my RER is 0.64. So I'm still relatively just utilizing fat as a fuel source. Then you can see the pace here is not just going for a walk or resting and hanging out.
Right. So about a fast single, nice setup. How did that weight feel for you?
The weight was fine. Probably could have done this a little heavier and had a very similar test. So I was breathing through my nose the majority of this test.
Quite the videographer that kept your head in view.
Well, I cropped to fit this. It's fine. I'd rather not have my face in the video anyway. So, but you can see here my RER starts to creep up during the rest, and that's just I had just started to reach outside my MAP there at, you could see 145, 148, and that is the upper limits of where I am only burning fat. And you'll see later on in the video that we're gonna inlay the actual test results from the PNOE. But I wanted to kind of have a conversation here and give everybody an idea about what MAP2 or MAP5 training can look like, and the magic in this work to rest ratio.
So let's look at your demeanor. I mean, obviously you're wearing a mask, so you're not dancing and chatting in the rest there. You could see you took some deep breaths. Your movements are very controlled and calculated. I wouldn't say you're racing or going at a competitive pace, but I also wouldn't say that you are attempting to slow yourself down to make sure you're keeping with it.
I'm not. I'm
Right.
not. I'm controlling myself a little bit on the bike. I could easily have held probably 65 to 68 RPM on that bike, but that would have definitely been a different training zone and would have been hard effort. This is right now you can see my heart rate is just creeping up a little bit here after the 10 toes to bars, and my RER is up a little bit here, but you'll see that all of this kind of settles out and I start utilizing fat again as a fuel source here in just probably another second or two.
So this heart rate 135, between 135 and 145, which seems to be about where you're working. What does that look like up on the big screen during a class? Is that your yellow?
Yeah, that's yellow. It's about 73, 74% of what I have set in there is my max heart rate, which, the more we're training, the more we don't really care about the percentage so much.
Right. Just this is a green and yellow workout for you.
Yeah, my work here is I'm trying to continue and keep my pace that I start with and, try to keep my heart rate in the 150 and below really would be, at the very end, it's okay if maybe I see a little 150 in this kind of training session because, through the Pinoy testing that I've found that I'm still very aerobic, still utilizing a lot of fat, even at 150 beats. It's just not as efficient as I am at 136. And I'm obviously being a little bit careful with this Pinoy on with my cleans here. That's why you see kind of a strange elbow come through. But you can see RER is back down under 0.7. Now it's starting to sneak up a little bit. And it'll be really fun when we pull this next graph in.
So before we pull this next graph in, right there we've got the red and the yellow have a big split, and then you have a dip, and now they're coming back up.
Correct.
So what is that yellow? What is that red? Why did they come together?
Yeah, the yellow is the carbon dioxide breathing out. The red is O2 coming in.
Okay.
And why they come together a little bit there is because I'm resting and I'm not breathing as hard anymore. Mm-hmm. And, I've still got a little bit of sugar to burn off there, a little bit of lactate that's come into my system. So just the act of resting without, being as, if I would have kind of got on that bike after the power cleans and just kind of hardly moved for, about a minute, it would have been interesting to see what my RER would have done there instead.
So that picture right there, the dip is your rest. So there we go. We're reading. We stopped videoing at this point because as fun as it was to watch you move through those motions.
Right. I'm leaving the video up because you can kind of see and watch the 5 rounds go on here.
Okay.
And what's going on is the same thing continues to happen throughout this entire thing. So.
All right. So can we jump ahead now and your mousing? It didn't beep. Is it on?
Yeah, we're back.
All right. We're back. Max and Kate in the Ticker studio. And I want to talk kind of about broad subject, building a huge aerobic base, which everyone of our 4 listeners is like, will you stop with this giant aerobic base, please? We've killed this. But we've done some tests with the Pinoy metabolic analyzer in the past couple days.
Yep.
Across a couple weeks and months as well. And we've been learning a lot about what our bodies are doing metabolically while we fitness.
Yeah, we're starting to get more and more data on this.
Right. So the stresses that we put on our body, and obviously while we're working out, we wear heart rate monitors and we see a number on the screen that tells us what we're doing and how our body's responding. And then if we can throw on that Pinoy mask.
Yeah, and with the heart rate monitors, we are seeing that we're starting to do more work with less strain and stress. We are starting to notice that on the board.
Sure.
Yep.
So we had a long effort today. Various movements across 50 minutes.
Yeah, just break. What was the workout today?
So today was
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
7 reps of each thing.
Chest to bar pull-ups, handstand push-ups.
Toes to bar.
Toes to bar.
Push-ups.
And then 28 air squats.
Yep.
With 7 cals on the bike in between.
Correct. For 50 minutes.
Right.
Nonstop.
And that's 7 cals on the bike in between each of the exercises.
Yes.
So I had an athlete who came to do that workout. She started out phenomenal and then quickly saw that her heart rate was getting up really high in everything but the bike.
Got it.
So the bike was kind of meant to calm everyone back down to recover. And we've worked really hard on making the bike, the run, the row, the aerobic activity, actually aerobic recovery.
Right.
So she'd hop back on the bike and go pretty slow, and we would chat for a few minutes. And then I would notice pretty much every single other exercise, no matter how she scaled them, and this will come into my point in a minute, was making her heart rate go up.
Sure.
At the end of class, we analyzed her heart rate chart. So we looked at the little pretty graph. And I'd drone.
Yeah.
I have an English degree.
You drawn a picture?
Drawn a picture on the board of what I wanted the heart rate graph to look like and kind of where I wanted them to stay and how the stimulus was designed of this workout.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because the goal would be to be relatively flat.
Right. And you may see a couple little peaks.
Sure.
You should see some recovery, but we're talking like mini mountains kind of thing. And then
rolling hills.
Rolling hills.
Got it.
Gentle.
No steep ups, no steep downs.
Right. Oh yeah, that would be a mountain.
Yeah.
Right. A hill.
Yeah.
So, and then by the very end, maybe flirting around that top of that aerobic threshold zone.
Yep.
So we look at her chart and actually has that exact thing, but an octave too high.
Got it.
So in terms of a graph, it was just, the whole thing was too high.
It was just a bit shifted.
So
10 or 15 beats probably.
Exactly.
Yep.
And she did show me recovery on the bike. It
Sure.
just, she, for lack of a better way to say it, she ran hot for the whole entire hour.
Yep.
So her question to me was she had two questions. She goes, how do I make this better? And I said, by doing more of it, obviously.
Right. More volume.
And she's like, well, how often do I have to come to be able to do it? And I asked her, how often do you come now? How is your schedule work? She has a really chaotic schedule, so she hasn't been a regular gym goer. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, can you commit to starting when your schedule evens out to even 3 days a week, but make one of them a goat day?
Sure.
And she said, why? Even though she's a regular goater.
That was I was going to ask you. Why would you tell her that?
Right, and she does a great job. And so now we're segging into what I actually want to talk about, comparing two of your graphs. Are we on the screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you did two different exercises. We'll circle back around to our member in a minute. You did a workout with the Pinoy on at
Correct.
a specific work to rest interval.
Yeah, the one that's on the screen now is a workout that I did yesterday. It was 10 toes to bars, 10 calories on the bike, 5 power cleans, rest a minute. Work was about 2.5 minutes, rest was a minute, and I did that 5 times, rested 3 minutes, and then repeated it.
So that's a MAP5 workout.
Yes.
Okay. So we did a whole bunch of, I remember we did these for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, lots
in
of
a
them.
row.
Yeah.
And bring up your other chart of the most other recent Pinoy test you did. So we're going to bring this up, and this was a workout. It's up on the top. The one where
that's when I just showed you.
Oh. There was one that you did where you sat on an assault bike for a long time, and you did a version of our testing. Isn't it way up there? It's on page 1. It's not the 551. It's the 190 breaths.
Mm-hmm.
So with this one, you sat on an assault bike and you did various ramp-up activities, right?
This was just pretty much an aerobic 100K.
All right.
Or 100 calories for
So you could
time.
say this was a long aerobic effort.
So, I mean, not that long. It was only 500 or 190 breaths. So, 700 seconds. So 10 minutes.
It was an extended aerobic effort.
Sure.
There was not built-in
Correct.
work and rest.
Correct.
So using these two things together, this is where I want to kind of dive into what we talked about earlier. I want to kind of analyze.
I see where you're going with this. How my math relates to then my CrossFit.
Right.
Map.
So you did this first.
Yep. I did this in the morning, then rested a couple hours.
So let's talk about this. What did you learn on this test? How did you feel? What did you learn? Why did you decide to do this?
Yeah. So I did this, I coached all morning, and then just hadn't checked in on my true math, where I utilize only fat as a fuel source. I wanted to see where I was at with that, and I was about 133 beats. You can see that by my cursor here. This is the split here. And that point happens at about 132 beats, at least this morning, right? Because there's a little variation in this. And then I was interested in seeing how long, even at, 142, 144 beats, I'm still utilizing a fair bit of fat. And you can see that by the flat line there. And, not a huge uptick in carbohydrates. Carbohydrates and fat kind of level off here in this range at about 137 beats, 138 beats.
So the fact that those two graphs are relatively flat tells me that you are being efficient through these, using those two fuel sources in equal amounts of each other.
Correct.
How did you feel when you were nearing the end of that? Like where your cursor is now at 138, almost to the end, how'd you feel?
The same as I felt here. Great.
Right. And then if we look at the fact that red line at the bottom is almost to the top of the little graph.
Yeah, that is, that's a good point there, Kate. Like here when I'm utilizing only fat, I'm at 10.5 kilocalories per minute of fat utilization. And then even along here, I'm still at like 8.6. And you can see I was starting to rise back up because here I was at like 144 beats. And then I slowed myself down because I was watching my RER during the test. And you can see that it's starting to tick back up. And I'm getting closer to 9 again.
And what did your heart rate do there?
It was settling back out about at 136, 135.
Okay. So kind of back to where you were noticing in the beginning of the test where you would have been
correct,
quote unquote super efficient.
I should have done another 100 calories because I would have done it at 132 and I would have probably brought these two lines back in place. And that was about 54 RPMs on the assault bike.
And you felt good, like you had energy and you could keep going.
Absolutely.
Obviously, because you went and did another test, which
Correct.
we'll get to in a minute. Let's zoom up to the top of this chart and look at what's happening in this very top chart. So this is your oxygen is blue.
Yep.
And your carbon dioxide is red.
Yep.
And that's a pretty even split.
Yeah.
You don't go up over that 3,000, whatever the unit of measure is.
Yep. Yep.
Until the
milliliters per minute.
Milliliters per minute. Till the very end, you have a couple spots right there where you get a little stressed out in terms of breathing out heavy, but that could have been
just a little bit.
Who knows what?
That was when I was at about 145 beats, so that was just stretching my aerobic a little bit, but not much.
Okay, so let's take this knowledge now. We did this test. You have this. You come back to the office. We look at it and we kind of figure out, all right, this is where you're at today for this moment.
Yeah.
Fueled properly, feeling good, ready to go. So open up your the next test you did.
We might be making some assumptions that I was fueled properly, but
your body was using whatever you gave it appropriately.
Which were some, a cup of coffee with coconut oil, creamer, and 4 hard-boiled eggs.
Creamer meaning heavy cream.
Yes.
The good stuff.
That's what that is pretty much all I had eaten that day.
Okay.
And then are we opening up the
WOD.
The one that we're actually analyzing here?
So you have done this workout before.
Pretty much. I did a little harder version last time, but I wanted to check in to see how accurate that previous test was.
So we're offering our members right now an assault bike test on the Pinoy where we just set their zone. So they end up doing...
Yeah, we need to find their MAP.
Right, to find their MAP, to find out what's happening in their bodies at every heart rate. So the one thing that we're not offering, but we are telling them, is take this number, so similar to your 100 aerobic cals.
Sure.
Take this number and run with it.
Yeah,
let's
utilize
use it and
during
see
our
what
training.
happens. So this is kind of what you did. Same day, a little bit different time in between. What was this workout?
So this was 10 toes bars, 10 calories on the assault bike, 5 power cleans at just 115 pounds.
Okay. You say just.
That was relatively light.
Okay.
My max is 275, so it's a low percentage.
Okay. Got
Something
it.
that I can cycle if needed, high repetitions. I can breathe through my nose if I do these as, singles.
All right. Let's look at the chart. It has nice mountains.
Yeah.
Not mountains.
No,
This has nice
This is rolling
rolling
hills.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like the bumpy grass on U of M's campus right there.
Yeah, you can almost see the toes to bars, the bike, and the power cleans.
All right. So let's look at your heart rate.
Got it. So that's where I'm at here. And pretty much at the top or the peak of the first interval. Remember, this was about 2 minutes of work, 2.5 minutes of work, 1 minute rest.
Mm-hmm.
So right there where my cursor is, it's the end of round 1.
Okay.
145 beats. And we remember from our other tests that I was utilizing carbohydrates and fat pretty, they were both flat there. I wasn't spiking or they weren't going in opposite directions. How about that?
So you were pretty efficient at those two fuel sources. And an even plane as if you could go on forever.
Yes, definitely aerobic.
So when we're testing this aerobic theory,
mm-hmm.
you added in some rest. And what happened?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, in the first interval, you can see here on this graph here, right here is where I started to utilize a little bit of carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
And at that same point there, that's, around 145 beats.
Okay.
Then I rest. And during the rest, I actually started to utilize a little bit more carbohydrate before I started again.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, the heart rate and what's going on with the body, there's a little lag there, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect system, but as the more you do this, the more you can start to kind of
it's
understand
stress
that.
and response.
Correct.
You're putting a stressor on, and then your body's going to respond accordingly. So It appears that you put stress on your body, and then when you let it respond, it's going to...
Yeah. So the sugar utilization of the carbohydrate is there just because, at 145 beats, I do produce, a little bit of lactate, a little bit of lactic acid for the body to have to assimilate. And when you're just stopping, you're not going to be breathing as hard. And I'm kind of making an assumption here that that's why we start utilizing that, a little bit of sugar to help, repair you and get you back to neutral.
Let's step back a little bit of lactate. We have to remember you were doing toes to bar biking and power cleans.
Yeah.
Those are not restful activities. That's a workout. Those are legit CrossFit.
Yeah, and as we saw in the video
movements.
previous, I was doing those unbroken and biking 55 RPMs and, relatively quick singles.
That's a good good go pace.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it was a nice pace.
Right.
I could have gone a little faster on the bike, but everything else was just fine.
So we see these little hills. They're your work to rest, your work to rest. There's nothing overly notable about any of this first set, except at the very end. So on set 1, 2, 3, 4, suddenly, no, on this side, right there, we notice a marked uptick in your fat.
Yeah.
Your hills are getting more mountainous there.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. We're utilizing more fat. I'm doing some work.
The interesting thing is your heart rate is...
Yeah, it's 151.
Right.
When it remember it's reacting. So I had just hit 151, and then when it hits this peak, I'm actually probably starting to rest a little bit.
So
yeah,
we put a lot into with our members and in our education that we want you to use fat for a fuel source. We want you because it's most efficient. It's not going to cause inflammation. It's going to make you feel good and be able to do more work.
Yeah, you're going to be enduring. You're just going to be more robust. Everything is going to be easier.
Right. And you have to teach your body to be able to do this.
Correct.
So
this is one of the ways we teach you to do that.
And this is obvious now that as you're starting to get into your work.
Yeah, I'm still utilizing fat. And one of my highest upticks here, almost 12, 11.7 kilocalories per minute, at 152, 53 beats. Remember, there's a lot of people out there that think it's impossible to burn fat during exercise.
Right. So,
and I would say in traditional HIIT or high intensity training, they might be right.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this shows me that you are very efficient in using the fuel you are providing your body.
This is me becoming very metabolically efficient.
Right.
I still have a ways to go for what I think is my true potential as far as, athletically. But I'm getting to the point now where if I just have to get stronger to be a better CrossFitter now.
Seems like I've heard this personally before.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving forward on your next hill, what happens in that valley there in the middle?
This here?
Yep.
Yeah, that's 3 minutes of rest.
There we go. So I see that in the rest.
Yeah, I get all the way down to 109 beats there.
Okay. And then you start again.
Yep.
So let's talk about this next set. So you have rested, and we have 3 lovely hills that look just like the previous 5.
Yep.
And then we have something bizarre happen there.
Yeah, so I see where you're going with this. Which one are we not recovering very well on? Are we looking at the heart rate here? This one?
I was actually yes.
Yeah, so this is set 1, 2, 3. So to set 3, I kind of wanted to push a little harder, see what would happen to my RAR.
I bet no member of our gym has ever said that.
Right? So I see where you're going with this now. Yeah. And you'll notice even being metabolically efficient and burning a fair bit of fat still there, you can see that it's lower than it was here. So
what was your heart rate?
Yeah, I got up to 163 there. And I know from my previous tests that is in my upper limits of my aerobic system. Almost starting to cross over from time to time.
You would almost say that aerobic, that longer, steady aerobic effort taught you how to use this in a WOD. What happens
100%.
when you get to that point. We tested it. So
100%.
Right here. Now you do come back, and we have 2 more rounds after that.
Yeah, but this next round, the 9th round, I had to really chill out, and I'm still trying to recover. You see I hit 162. Like, that was the one round where my pace on the bike to get myself back to where I wanted to be output-wise had to be like 48, 49 RPMs instead of early on I was 55, and then that round I pushed, I was like 59 to 60.
Which just proves the point that scaling is vital to maintain the stimulus.
Yeah, because I stopped training my aerobic system when I did that 3rd round, potentially. I mean,
you could have. So if I look there at that, drastic on the bottom right-hand corner, you have a drastic downward spiral of fat utilization and a huge uptick in carbohydrate utilization.
Correct. That again is during rest, but that is there is obviously some lactate that was...
Right. Something is occurring here that your body needs to recover from. It has to work that out.
Correct.
So, I mean, I feel like if you didn't take that rest, or if you continued on that pace, we would see that trend go up. And you can even see on that next round that you get a little chaotic after that.
Yeah.
The carbohydrate is coming up off the floor there of that bottom graph a little more. You're not nearly as efficient as you were after the rest.
Right, where it was flat more here.
So that proves to me, saying that you need to scale for yourself. So you learned kind of how to do it, and then you learned what happens when you push it.
Right.
And this shows me here, even though we only have a 2-set example, that sticking with the stimulus, if you don't, what happens is you're not going to see as rapid of gains as in the beginning where you just did your work.
Correct.
And
yeah, I almost sacrificed my training,
right,
for going a little faster,
right.
And there's lots of people in this gym that probably can do what I did much faster. This is just where I'm at,
right?
With my strength and with my skill level and sleep and stress and all that kind of stuff. But let's keep in mind this was about 30 minutes. I felt amazing when I was done. Mm-hmm. I did 100 toes to bar, 100 calories on the bike, and 50 power cleans.
And this way you had to scale, so your weight on the power cleans. This becomes vital as we're in a competitive environment. There's other people around us doing, their own things.
Yep.
That with actual literal, little perceived effort, you made changes for this workout to make sure that you were preserving something that is going to have long-term gains.
Yeah, I was preserving the stimulus of aerobic training.
Right. So,
which is, very high level training and focus.
So I wrote down a note that, how to build a huge aerobic base. And this comes back to the member today in my class when she was saying, this is really hard for her. Mm-hmm. That it ended up being, although it ended up kind of being a work to rest ratio thing. And she didn't scale it properly. Or she wasn't able in this particular workout to make sure that she
just wasn't ready yet for
a 50-minute. Right. So I have, how do I build a huge aerobic base and why the long efforts matter as do the short work to rest ratios. So we can see here where you were able to stretch your heart rate up a lot higher than that 136.
Yes, and still utilize a lot of fat for an hour.
Until you couldn't.
Correct.
In the end, when you pushed it too far.
Yeah.
So we can see the benefit.
But then there's also, you can see the benefit here of having a robust aerobic system, because if I didn't have a robust aerobic system, I wouldn't have been able to come back.
Exactly.
Right.
So doing those longer efforts, which is why I told her that, throw in some GOAT classes. And GOAT is much more of that, where we're not getting the work to rest ratios.
She's going to be spending more time at, her equivalent of, this point right here. It's easier to maintain at GOAT.
Right. Because we're doing things
just
for
the
a
way
longer period of time.
The way you program, and that's the point of that class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to come in and sit on a rower for, 20 minutes at a time at your FAF heart rate, and then do something else about it at the same time.
That's going to help her aerobic system become more robust and allow her to handle larger volumes of training potentially.
Right.
Which is all making her healthy. Is it making her pull-ups aerobic? You could argue yes, as long as she's working on her strength for her pull-ups and her skill of her pull-up. Right. But hopefully when she's able to start putting both things together, that's when she's, creating a high volume number of reps of pull-ups, handstand push-ups, wall balls, all this kind of stuff that is quote unquote CrossFit.
Right. And aerobic. What I told her is, out of her 3 days a week that she can commit to coming in, pick one of those and be a GOAT day and 2 of them be a CrossFit day.
I think that's a great suggestion.
So this circle back total to how we program. It's the MAP progression, coming from, we were pretty classic CrossFit for a while. And then we started throwing in these calculated work to rest ratio workouts that we called MAP. And then we're like, hey, when you're doing those MAP workouts, we want to do these at heart rate, leading up into this. And now that we're at the top, these long efforts that aren't necessarily everyone's favorite thing. Right. Some people love them.
It was boring.
It's boring. But some people are like, today's workout's the most awesome workout ever. And in fact, I joked with them at the end of the 50 minutes. I'm like, you guys want to just keep going?
Yeah.
And
awesome.
For the most people felt so good. They did phenomenal at making sure that they were recovering. They felt like they could.
Yeah. How many rounds? I think I need to figure out how many rounds I did, because I think I ended up, like Andy did the math, and it was like a total of 450 reps plus the bike.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty insane.
So now we're going to be pulling this back down. So that is, big picture.
I'm sorry. It would have been like about 500 reps with the bike for many people.
It's a lot of reps.
Yeah. Sorry.
In 50 minutes.
Yes.
So taking this, today's, although it's spread out across movements to keep you less bored, so to speak.
Yeah. And, to keep the muscle fatigue down so you actually can complete the work with, the magic in a workout like that is to try to keep everybody moving, so the rep quantities are lower, per set.
We had a push, we had a pull, we had,
actually
we had several of both.
Right. Because if I would have muscular fatigued people too much, they would have had to stand until they were just ready for another push-up.
Everyone was moving the entire time.
Yeah, that's the goal. And then to not look up and see all red, which
I saw one person get red, and that was the person that approached me after class, and we had a long discussion about it.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
even
insane.
People that typically have a hard time with being in the red found today's after, working for several weeks. I had a couple of people that I was a little worried about moving for 50 minutes, and they did phenomenal. Now, this was...
I manipulated that a little bit, right? I get that I'm manipulating what people are capable of CrossFit-wise through programming, but... And
training.
Yeah.
We've worked up to being able to do that
100%. We did that workout 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. That board would have been a stoplight.
Which is kind of my point, that if we look at this workout today, a 50-minute effort with a lot of CrossFit movements and only 7 cals on the bike to recover, that's your longer, flatter, no rest effort. So let's learn from it. How did it go? Now we're going to start soonish moving back down into these work to rest ratios. Now, without being able, and you didn't go, I would love to see this workout that you did, the toes to bar and bike and power clean done 3 different ways. I would love to see it. We've already done it this way. Mm-hmm. I would love to see it without the rest. What happens when you do that straight through as an AMRAP?
Yep.
And keeping it at your MAP heart rate.
Yep. It will be a little bit slower pace.
I would also love to see it, and I say this all the time, as full CrossFit.
Yeah.
I want to see it for time.
Sure. 10 rounds for time. Oh,
exactly.
God.
Like, I want to see all those different things, and I kind of want to compare them in their own...
Yeah.
The same workout.
Sure.
What does your body do metabolically? How do you use things? And use that as fuel as we do long efforts at heart rate, and then we do work to rest ratios, and how those 2 things are so vital to your training in terms of like how your body is using fuel and how you feel.
And you'll see real quick the difference between training and competing or training and racing.
How long would this workout be if it was a competition workout?
You probably could do a round every minute and a half.
Ooh.
Yeah. But there's going to be almost zero fat. I mean, I'll still utilize some fat just because
that's what your body reaches for.
We'll find out. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll put the Pinot on and I'll just kind of go full CrossFit best I can with that thing on, and it'll be fun to see. The other thing that would be fun to see is this same workout with 5 minutes on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to see, as I stretch my 150, what happens. And also just to see it as like a MAP, like you said, a MAP 8 workout, 20 minutes just without stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if I can keep, a high level of fat utilization. Because during this workout, right, this was 30 minutes or so, I used 84% of my energy came in from fat.
Yeah.
My RER was 0.76.
That's phenomenal.
There's some magic in the 3 on, 1 off, or the work to rest ratio that's going on. Right. Again, that stuff has been known for a while. I didn't come up with that.
It is, and it's one of those things that this is the why. This is the behind the whiteboard.
Yeah.
This is
this
why.
Gives people an understanding of why the coach is coming over to you and looking at you cross-eyed like, maybe you should slow down.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to do this, you have to practice it.
And so you did these, when did you do these workouts? Yesterday?
Yes.
How do you feel today?
Oh, fine. I did today's workout. Very similar output as this.
Across 50 minutes.
Yep. I got, I don't know, however we scored that today. 217 calories on the bike. So equal pull-ups, push-ups, toes to bars.
Yeah. And then you had meetings. You have a family.
Yeah.
You didn't go home
great.
And sleep on your couch.
No,
I mean, not that I would expect this anyway. I mean, I don't look at this like going full CrossFit, but I look at this like you did 2 significant tests yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you worked out today and did, I mean.
Yes. Yesterday I did 100 toes to bar and I added 50 more today.
Yeah.
Plus, 50 chest to bar.
I think we lose track of that in the day to day, like what we're doing.
Yeah. While you're grinding away there and you're kind of like, this is boring. Oh yeah, your boring work just did 100 toes to bars and 50 power cleans and
now we can kind of see like how your body is responding. And I would assume that if we put this on one of my other members from Noon that did really well, like their chart may not look the same.
It could be anybody if they're able to stay relative to this split point, whatever that heart rate is.
Yes.
They might not utilize the same quantity of fat as I'm using.
Just because that's what you provide your body with for fuel.
Correct. And they might be, smaller or bigger or whatever.
Right.
But if they stay around this MAF number here where they start to utilize, their tests are going to look the same as long as they don't go full CrossFit here in midway.
Yeah.
And then not be able to recover. So, great talk, Kate.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, more to come. How do we stop this thing?
I don't know.
What happened to it? Should we give some more Cartman before we turn off? He ain't again.